Kidnap by Astra Wolf, Chapter 1, The Drop-Off. The sun was just starting to dip, casting an amber wash across the suburbs as Sarah pulled her old sedan to the curb. The engine gave its familiar cough before dying into silence. Her son Jake was already half out of the passenger seat, vibrating with the kind of excitement only a teenager could muster for a Saturday night party. "Thanks, Mom," he beamed, slinging his backpack over his shoulder. He slammed the door behind him before she could even reply. "I'll text you later, okay? Have fun. And be safe. Midnight." Sarah called out after him, waving a hand that trembled just slightly. She watched him jog across the quiet road, his sneakers slapping the pavement in rhythm with his enthusiasm. The house he ran toward looked grand, too grand for a bunch of kids. It was 3 stories tall with broad stone steps and ivy creeping up the pillars like fingers. Warm lights glowed through tall bay windows, and music thumped faintly from within. Laughter spilled into the twilight. For a moment, Sarah frowned. Something felt off. Not enough to make her stop him, just a flicker. But the house looked lived in, vibrant. Teenagers laughed at the door. Balloons were tied to the railing. Jake turned, gave her a thumbs up, and disappeared inside. Sarah drove away. The next 6 hours passed in a slow, forgettable drip. She cleaned, half-watched a movie, ordered Thai food she didn't eat. She texted Jake at 10, no reply. She assumed he was busy. That was normal, wasn't it? By 11:45 p.m. she grabbed her keys. The streets were deathly quiet, no kids loitering, no music echoing from windows. Sarah's headlights cast long shadows that flickered across hedges and hedgerows. When she turned the corner onto Willow Lane, her stomach tightened. The house was dark, no lights, no balloons, no music. Just the same ivy, now hanging limp in the breeze, and windows that looked as if they hadn't been cleaned in years. "What the hell?" she muttered, pulling up to the curb. She stepped out slowly, heels clicking on cracked pavement. Her eyes scanned the house. No cars in the drive, no sign of life. The manicured lawn she'd seen earlier was now an overgrown mess. Even the air smelled different, like damp earth and mildew. "Jake?" she called, walking up the steps. Her voice didn't echo off anything cheerful. It was swallowed by silence. She reached for the door, unlocked. It groaned open on rusted hinges, creaking like something from a horror film. Inside, it was cold, not just physically. Cold in that dead, untouched way, like time had stopped here a decade ago. Dust blanketed the furniture. Cobwebs stretched across ceiling corners like abandoned veils. "Jake?" she called louder, stepping inside. "This isn't funny." Her footsteps echoed, her shoes sticking slightly to grime on the floor. She reached for her phone, no signal. Her finger hovered over the call button before she paused again. That's when she saw it, Jake's backpack. It was lying near the cold fireplace, half unzipped. One of his shoelaces hung out of it, frayed and grimy, like it had been dragged. She picked it up slowly, feeling the weight of her own panic settle on her chest like concrete. What the fuck happened? What the fuck is happening? She clutched the bag to her chest, backed out of the room and bolted outside, heart hammering so violently she thought it might burst through her ribs. Her phone was shaking in her hand as she dialed 911, fingers fumbling with panic. 911, what's your emergency? My son was at a party. The house is empty. I just found his backpack inside. I saw other kids here earlier. Now it's like no one's ever lived here. Please, something is wrong. Please." Chapter 2, Desperate Measures. Red and blue lights splintered through the darkness, casting violent flashes across the abandoned house's crumbling facade. The rhythmic strobe illuminated every detail, peeling paint, weeds breaking through the porch steps, a rotted swing set barely visible in the backyard like a rusted noose waiting for use. Sarah stood by her car, hugging Jake's backpack like a lifeline, her eyes wide and darting. The adrenaline had faded to something worse, a cold, vibrating dread that filled her bones with static. Units 22 and 47 arriving on scene. Caller is a female, mid-40s, reports child missing from an abandoned residence. The squad car door opened and out stepped Officer Reynolds, a tall man with the shoulders of someone used to carrying other people's nightmares. His partner, Officer Dana Murphy, a younger, steel-eyed woman with tactical gloves still on, trailed just behind. "Ma'am, Sarah, is it?" Reynolds asked, his tone a practiced mix of empathy and control. "Yes. My son Jake. He was here. I dropped him off earlier tonight. The house was lit up. There were other kids. Music. Balloons, for Christ's sake. And now it's like it's fucking haunted. Officer Murphy glanced at Reynolds, who gave a subtle nod. Okay, we'll check it out. You said he was dropped off around 6? 6:30. I watched him go in. I saw other kids at the door. I swear to God this place was alive. It was normal. Now it looks like it's been abandoned for 20 goddamn years. Reynolds walked toward the porch, sweeping his flashlight across the warped boards and leaning doorframe. There's no power, Murphy muttered behind him, eyeing the disconnected cables hanging from the side of the house. No electricity, no heating. It smells like mold and rat shit. Reynolds turned back to Sarah. Ma'am, this house has been condemned for years. That's not possible, Sarah snapped, stepping forward. This place was... Fuck! I'm not crazy. No one's saying you are, Reynolds said evenly, but something isn't adding up. He reached for a folder from the squad car, local files loaded into a city tablet. Within minutes, the confirmation flashed across the screen. Willow Lane, parcel number 3065, condemned since 2018. Site of murder-suicide, October 12, 2018. Do not enter. Unstable structure. Sarah's mouth fell open. Her fingers dug into the backpack, tightly, the fabric strained. You're telling me this is where I left my son, at a fucking crime scene? Reynolds nodded, jaw tight. 5 years ago, a man killed his wife and teenage daughter, himself too. Neighbors say the daughter was the same age as your boy. House has been left to rot ever since. No, I saw lights, I saw people. Murphy gave her a lingering look. Did you record anything? Dash cam? Take any photos? No. Sarah's knees buckled slightly, but she caught herself on the hood of her car. Why would I take a photo of my son going into a party? A moment passed. Too quiet. The wind pushed a dead leaf through the middle of the road like a drifting omen. I'm not imagining this, she said, almost to herself. He's gone. That house was alive. I saw it. Reynolds motioned toward Murphy. Let's sweep it. Body cams on. Take it slow. Flashlights pierced the black interior. The officers moved in tandem, careful with each step. The house groaned with their weight, floorboards sighing under unfamiliar presence. In the living room, Sarah's footprints were already fading in the dust. On the fireplace mantel sat a crumbling family photo in a rusted frame. The girl looked not unlike Jake's age. The officers cleared the ground floor. No signs of recent life, no party favors, no food, no beer cans. Nothing. Reynolds stepped back outside and radioed dispatch. We need a missing persons alert. Teen male, name's Jake Whitaker. Last seen at 18:30 by his mother at Willow Lane. House may have been used as a lure or trap. Sarah stared at the house and whispered, I sent him into that. I handed him over. The wind picked up. Something thudded deep inside the house, too heavy for a rat. Murphy spun around. Her flashlight caught the glint of something metallic in the upstairs hallway. It disappeared just as quickly. Chapter 3. Unanswered Questions. By the time dawn smeared gray across the rooftops, Sarah was still awake, stiff, silent, and hollow-eyed, wrapped in a police station fleece she hadn't noticed being handed to her. The missing person's form sat incomplete in front of her, smeared with half-erased pencil marks and the smudge of her trembling hand. Jake Whitaker, 15, blue hoodie, black Nikes, green eyes, last seen at a party on Willow Lane. Except it wasn't a party. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. Coffee sat untouched beside her. She didn't taste anything anymore. The words Officer Reynolds had spoken hours ago were still bouncing inside her skull like trapped birds. No signs of recent activity. The place has been abandoned for years. No other reports of a gathering. Then came the kicker. The one that made her skin crawl. We canvassed the area. The kids you said were at the party? All accounted for. At home. They said there was no party planned. None of them texted Jake today. Bullshit. She saw them, standing on that porch, laughing. One of them, a girl with a pink streak in her hair, had waved at her. Either she was insane, or something bigger was happening. Sarah left the station just after 9 a.m. without signing the form. She needed to do something, anything, to escape the walls. She drove past the house again. It hadn't changed, still dead, still empty, still mocking her. She screamed at it from the driver's seat, a ragged howl of rage and despair that fogged up the windshield. Then she went home, made a pot of black coffee, opened her laptop, and typed Willow Lane Murder-Suicide 2018. The details came back fast. A man named David Monroe. Finance director. Wife, Karen. Daughter, Isabel, aged 15. Isabel had been struggling with mental health, they said. David cracked, shot them both, shot himself. Classic tragedy. Suburban horror show. Except it wasn't classic, because Isabel looked exactly like one of the girls Sarah had seen laughing at the party. Same pink streak, same face. That girl had died 5 years ago. So how the fuck had she seen her at the door? Sarah ripped through every forum, blog, and conspiracy subreddit she could find. She searched ghost stories, hallucinations, deepfake technology, augmented reality, MK Ultra bullshit, gas leaks, schizophrenia symptoms, anything that could explain how reality had unspooled itself in front of her eyes. At one point, she stopped and stared at herself in the mirror above her desk. Her eyes were bloodshot, her lips cracked, her skin pale. Maybe she was losing it. Then her phone buzzed. Hello? You're Sarah Whitaker? Yes? My name's Mary Coleman. I lived on Willow Lane until 99. I heard about your boy. My niece works dispatch. Said you were looking into that house. Yeah, I am. That house is a place where things don't stay buried and not just bodies. Can I come speak with you? There was a pause. Then yes, but don't come alone. And don't tell the police. They stopped listening years ago. The line went dead. Sarah grabbed her keys and Jake's backpack. She didn't know why she brought it. Maybe because it still smelled faintly like him. Maybe because holding it gave her the illusion that he was still close. She didn't even change clothes, just drove, north, then west, until the rows of homes gave way to rusted mailboxes and skeletal trees. Mary lived in a small, weather-worn cottage surrounded by hedges and cats. She answered the door in a housecoat and thick socks, her eyes deep-set and alert. I swore I'd never talk about that place again, she said, ushering Sarah in. But you lost your boy. That's different. That deserves truth. Please, Sarah said. I need something to make this make sense. Mary poured tea with hands that trembled only slightly. She lit a candle. She stared at it as she spoke. There was always something in the walls there. Whispers, cold spots, a window that looked out onto nothing. The house didn't like being quiet. It fed off emotion, grief, rage, ecstasy. And when that family died in there, I knew it would start again. It always does after a death. Sarah leaned forward, heart pounding. So you think the house did this? I think the house isn't just a house, Mary said. I think it's a stage, and someone keeps pulling the strings behind the curtain. Sarah wanted to dismiss her, to scream that this was crazy, that none of it explained why Jake had vanished. But deep in her chest, the horror twisted tighter, because it did explain it. She had walked her son into someone's trap. Now she had to find out who or what had set it. Chapter 4, Unveiling Shadows. Sarah didn't sleep that night, not even in pieces. She drove home from Mary Coleman's house with the candle still burning in her mind, the flickering, the shadows it cast on the walls, and Mary's words that clung like smoke. The house is a stage. It feeds off pain. Someone keeps pulling the strings. She sat in the dark until dawn, staring at Jake's backpack. She hadn't opened it yet. Something about it terrified her, as if it might contain something she wasn't ready to see. Or worse, nothing at all. At 6 a.m. she pulled herself up, showered like she was washing off a layer of rot, and began dialing. One by one, she contacted the parents of Jake's closest friends. Lucas, Cameron, Mia, Sam, all of them. She was polite at first, then blunt, then borderline unhinged. How did your kid end up home last night if they were supposed to be at the party with mine? Oh, they never left the house? Oh, they didn't know about any party? Something was wrong. Something was being covered up, or something had rewritten what was real. By midday, 4 parents agreed to meet her. The rest told her to take her crazy somewhere else. Fair enough. She gathered the group at her place. 4 adults, bags under their eyes. Hollow expressions. All of them had kids who'd mentioned a party on Willow Lane, but they never went. When pressed, they remembered their kids being excited about it days before, but on the day of, they had all canceled or suddenly forgotten. Sarah slammed her palm on the table. That's not a coincidence. That's manipulation. Someone, something, messed with their heads. You're saying our kids were brainwashed? I'm saying mine was, and yours nearly were too. Linda, a mother with tightly knotted hair and a teacher's clipped speech, leaned forward. I don't think you're crazy. I've been feeling it too. Like my son was supposed to be somewhere else last night. Like something intervened. Richard, a broad-shouldered father of 3, added, What's the plan? Sarah didn't hesitate. We go back. Linda blinked. To the house? Yes, we look for the cellar. Mary said there's a sealed room in that place. One nobody found. That's where the truth is. The room fell into silence, and maybe that's where Jake is. An hour later, they arrived at Willow Lane in 2 cars. This time, they parked a block away and approached the house on foot, dressed in thick coats, boots, gloves. Not for the weather, for the filth, the rot, the unknown. Flashlights sliced through the mist curling low around the hedges. The wind carried an unnatural stillness. No birds, no dogs barking, just the faint hum of something electric and wrong. The porch groaned beneath their weight as they entered, one by one. The floorboards sighed like they were remembering. It's in the basement, Sarah said. I know it. They scoured the interior, room by room, wallpaper curled from the damp, carpets shredded with mold. The house felt bigger than it had before, like the walls had shifted slightly while they were gone. Wait, here. He pointed at a seam in the wall behind a bookcase. They hauled the shelf aside, revealing a small wooden panel. Scratched, splintered, it opened with a shove, coughing dust into their faces. Stairs led down, stone steps disappearing into black. This wasn't in the police report. No surprise, they never found it. Jake, they went down together. The light faded fast. Their beams shook against mildew-stained walls, revealing a low ceiling and a corridor far longer than it should have been. At the bottom, a room, a cell, steel cot, bucket in the corner, chains on the wall, scratches on the floor where someone had tried and failed to dig through concrete with fingernails, and in the middle, a phone. Still powered on, Jake's lock screen, battery blinking red. Her knees hit the ground before she even realized she was falling. She grabbed the phone like it was her child. Oh my God. This was used, recently. Someone's been here. We're not alone. Footsteps creaked overhead. Someone was upstairs, and they had just walked into the jaws of something that had been waiting a long, long time. Chapter 5. The Cellar's Secret. The air in the cellar was thick, not just with damp, but with a presence. A sensation that clung to the skin like wet cobwebs. Sarah could taste the decay. It wasn't just mold. It was fear, saturated into the walls like old blood. Stay still, Richard hissed, stepping in front of her, flashlight raised like a weapon. Above them, the footsteps were deliberate, heavy, one after another, like someone pacing the same line back and forth. Hunting, listening. Linda pressed herself against the wall, one hand gripping a rusted pipe for balance. Who the fuck is that? I don't know, but if they came down those stairs, there's only one exit. Sarah's voice cracked. If it's him, the one who took Jake, we confront him. We have to. With what, Sarah? Flashlights. What if he's armed? I'm not leaving without my son. They crept forward, deeper into the cellar, finding more signs of recent use. Fresh footprints in the grime. A folding chair with a still-warm coffee cup, stale bread on a tin plate. Human hair on the floor, short, brown. Jake's. Oh my God. Jake. Silence fell overhead. A door somewhere opened. They're leaving. Or they know we're down here. We move now, Sarah said. If this is where he was held, then maybe there's something they left behind, something we can use. They spread out, Sarah rifling through an overturned duffel bag, Richard inspecting the crude bathroom setup, and Linda examining the wall of scratch marks. Then Linda said, "Wait, these marks." She stepped back. The scratches weren't random. They were letters, words. Help. Jake, I'm still here. Don't trust the police. Sarah's throat clenched. What the hell does that mean? She whispered. Don't trust the police? They've been helping me. Have they, though? Reynolds knew about this place, said it was abandoned, but this wasn't hard to find. They didn't want us to find it. Sarah's brain pulsed with noise, flashes of memory, Reynolds hesitating before entering the house, the report being filed too fast, the missing body cam footage. Motherfucker! We go to the media, Sarah said. We take pictures, video, blow this shit open. A bang from upstairs, another, then footsteps descending. Oh, fuck, Richard muttered. Kill the lights! The cellar drowned in darkness. The only sound was their breath, ragged, quick, desperate, and the creak of stairs bending beneath weight. A figure appeared, just a silhouette at first, then the shape became clearer. Tall, lean, wearing black, no badge, no flashlight, but a mask. A smooth porcelain mask, like something from a theater or cult ritual, blank and glistening in the dark. Go back upstairs. Who the hell are you? You don't belong here. Where is my son? Gone. Sarah lunged. Richard tried to stop her, but it was too late. She grabbed the metal chair and swung. It caught the masked man on the shoulder. He staggered, but didn't fall. A taser. He fired. The prongs missed by inches. Richard shoved him back into the wall. The man slammed into the concrete. Mask shattered. Blood splattered the stone. They pulled his hood back. Holy shit! I know him. That's Officer Murphy's cousin. He was on the search team. They've been hiding this. All of them. They knew. She spat on the floor, wiped blood from her face, and said, "Then we burn this fucking place down." Chapter 6. Unexpected Encounter. The man in the porcelain mask lay unconscious on the floor of the cellar, blood trickling down his temple, his eyes fluttering beneath half-closed lids. Sarah stood over him, fists clenched, her breath shallow. Her heart was a war drum, a deep, rhythmic pounding of fury and fear and adrenaline. I should kill him. No, we need him alive. He's proof. We hand him over to someone who still gives a shit about justice. If such a person even exists anymore. They bound him with zip ties, dragged him up the stairs, and locked him in the trunk of Linda's car. It felt surreal, all of it. They were acting out some paranoid fantasy instead of living in what was now undeniably real. "Yay for citizen's arrest," she muttered, wiping blood from her cheek with a trembling hand. "We need a plan." They stepped back into the hallway. Outside, the wind had picked up, howling through the broken window panes like a warning. Then a sound. Footsteps. Slow, barefoot, approaching from the rear of the house. All three froze. Sarah raised her flashlight, ready to blind whoever it was, but when the figure stepped into view, the beam flickered, then dimmed, then died. The woman was standing still in the archway, pale, slender, bare feet muddied with earth. Wearing a long dress, gray with age and rain, her hair was tied back in a messy knot, and her eyes didn't blink. "Who the hell are you?" "My name is Celine. I'm not here to harm you." "Yeah? Prove it, because the last uninvited guest tried to tase us." "I was drawn here. I felt the boy." "Jake. I've been following his trail for days now." Sarah stiffened. "What do you mean, felt?" "I'm a psychic, or something close. I specialize in resonance, imprints, the echo of trauma. This house, it's a feeding ground, and your son's energy, it's still here." "She's fucking with us." "Maybe. But Jake's trail is cold if she's even half right. He is alive. I can't tell you where, but I can tell you this. He was taken by design, not by madness, not by accident. Someone wanted him because of who he is." "What the fuck does that mean?" "Jake's mind is open, receptive. He saw things the others couldn't, heard things. When he walked into this house, he didn't just see a party, he believed it. That belief created access. He opened the door." Sarah's jaw tightened. "He opened the door to what?" "A system, a network, a kind of theater designed to harvest belief, emotion, fear, for control, for experiments, maybe something worse." "That's insane." "Isn't it, though? This is bigger than a kidnapping. There's a location marked on your wall map, coordinates. That's where they've taken him. You saw the map. I didn't need to. I felt it. Water, machinery, a place that used to create power. Now it hides it. A mill or a dam, somewhere old, forgotten, full of metal and silence." "Do we trust her?" "We're out of options. I'll come with you, but I won't go inside. I'm not welcome in places like that anymore." They stood in silence. A trio of broken parents, staring at a stranger who spoke like poetry and bled cold logic. Whether Celine was real, a fraud, or a byproduct of their own crumbling sanity didn't matter. She gave them a direction. And right now, that was everything. Chapter 7. The Journey. They left before sunrise. Sarah, Richard, Linda, and Celine, the psychic who may or may not be delusional, packed what little they had into the back of Richard's 4BD. Sarah brought Jake's backpack, now slung over her shoulder like a shield. Inside it, she had tucked a flashlight, a crowbar, a handgun from Linda's glove compartment, and 3 protein bars. She didn't speak much. None of them did. The coordinates Celine gave them led northwest, past the suburbs and deep into the forgotten corridors of the state. Empty towns, service stations with broken ice machines, pine forests soaked with fog. The further they drove, the less the world made sense. This area wasn't on the last map. Nothing fucking is anymore. By midday, the road had crumbled to gravel, then dirt, then barely a path. Branches clawed the sides of the vehicle like angry fingers. Their cell signal vanished. The GPS blinked once, then gave up. "We're close." "Define close, because this doesn't look like a place people return from." Eventually, they came upon a rusted gate, crooked and straining against vines. A sign once warned against trespassing, but the words had faded into rot. Beyond the gate was silence. No birds, no bugs, just the hum of wind through dead wires. This is it. Yes, I feel his fear. Perfect. They left the car and continued on foot. The path curved through dense trees before opening into a clearing, and there it was, a decrepit hydroelectric facility, long decommissioned. Steel towers stretched overhead like skeletons, broken turbines sat half-sunken in murky water, pipes coiled through the hillside like arteries cut open. Jesus Christ, looks like it's been abandoned since the Cold War. It hasn't. A faint hum drifted up from beneath the main structure. A sound too regular, too artificial. Generators. Security systems. Something inside was alive. That hum, they're powering something. Jake, there's a side door, service access. It's half buried. This is where I stop. My presence here will only disrupt the current, whatever that means. Be careful. This place eats memory, fear, identity. Stay grounded. They nodded and descended the embankment toward the door. The air grew colder, stale, like exhaled breath trapped for decades underground. I'll go first. The door was surprisingly light. It gave way with a gasp of pressure. Inside, emergency lights glowed dim orange down a long tunnel. The air vibrated faintly. As they moved forward, a distant sound emerged, rhythmic, like music, but distorted. A child's looped and pitch shifted. Ring around the rosy. Pocket full of... What the actual fuck? They're using audio loops, psychological deterrents, keep intruders off balance. That's Jake's voice. None of them responded. They continued, flashlights bobbing in sync with their breath. Every corner led to another hallway. Every hallway looked the same. This place isn't just big, it's wrong, it's too deep. There's no logic to the layout. Look, stairs that go up lead to dead ends. Elevators don't connect to floors. It's not a facility, it's a fucking maze. And somewhere inside it, her son was waiting, if he was still alive. Chapter 8. Hidden Dangers. They moved deeper into the underground labyrinth. Each corridor pulsed with stale, recycled air. Rusted pipes creaked in the ceiling. Lights buzzed overhead in a way that seemed off. Not mechanical, organic, like the place was breathing. Watching. My flashlight keeps dimming. The batteries were new. Keep tapping it. Don't let the dark settle. This place wants us lost. It's already halfway there. Every turn bled into the next. Rooms without doors, doors that opened into walls. Noises echoed that had no source. Distant scraping, dripping water, the unmistakable cry of a child, quickly cut off. They knew not to follow the cries. That was rule number 1, but it still ate at them. Jake, wait. Do you hear that? A different noise now. Low hums and clicking, getting louder. Closer. Something's moving behind the walls. They backed into a maintenance room, slamming the door shut, just as something large scraped along the hallway behind them, metal against concrete. They waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. I saw something. In the corner. Something was watching us. I didn't see it. Exactly. That's what scares me. The maintenance room was small. Crates lined the walls. A single bulb hung from a fraying wire. There was no exit, but there was something else. Jesus. A cage. The crate had steel bars and padded lining, too small for an adult. The padding was stained. Something had clawed at it, dried blood in the corners. Someone used this recently. Look. A digital log, last opened 3 days ago. Jake's been here. Then something new, from above. A buzzing. What is that? Drone, or something like it. The wall behind them flexed. Something pressed against it from the other side. We have to move. He shoved the door open. They bolted down the corridor, turning left, then right, blindly sprinting toward anything that resembled an exit. There! Stairs! They pounded up a narrow concrete stairwell, twisting until they hit a steel door. Richard slammed it open, and they all stopped. They weren't on a new level. They were back where they started. The same corridor, same dripping pipe, same shattered light fixture. No, that's impossible. They're fucking with us. This place loops. It's built to confuse. Not just confuse, trap. Then they heard a sound, but not from ahead, not behind. Why did you come? A figure stepped out from a room ahead, human shape, but too smooth. Its face was a screen, blank at first, then glitching static. Then a face appeared, a child. Jake? He's not here. What are you? I'm the archive. I record. I show you what you want. No, that's what you came for, isn't it? No, I came for him, not lies. Truth is noise. You'll choke on it. They ducked, covering their ears. When the lights came back on, the figure was gone, but so was the stairwell. Only a concrete wall remained. They're changing the layout around us. This place isn't just a prison. It's a mindfuck. Chapter 9, Across the Barrier. Concrete surrounded them. Where the stairwell had been, now there was only a seamless wall, not bricked over, not sealed, just erased. As if the space behind it never existed. This can't be real. We were there. We climbed it. There's no line, no draft, no noise. It's like the wall's always been here. It's fucking with our heads. Some kind of projection, or we're trapped in a feedback loop. Then we find another way. We make another way. They began searching again. Every corner, every pipe, every loose panel. Then, Linda stopped. There, a seam. On the far wall, a thin vertical gap. Barely visible. A hidden door? Could be a way out, could be a trap. Is there a difference anymore? They used a length of rusted pipe to wedge it open. With a groan of tortured metal, the panel gave way. Behind it, a narrow, slanted corridor with strange wiring running along the floor like veins. The air smelled like ozone and burning plastic. What the fuck is this place? Let's find out. They walked for minutes, maybe longer. Time bled strangely in the facility. Eventually, the corridor opened into a viewing room. Monitors lined the far wall, dozens of them. Each screen showed a different room. Children's bedrooms, empty kitchens, barren classrooms, surveillance feeds. Some screens were static, others were worse. Are these observation cells? Jesus, that's a fucking nursery. One screen showed a boy, sitting in a corner, pale, unmoving, his face hidden behind his knees, her breath caught. Jake. She reached toward the screen, as if she could touch him through it. Then behind her, the hiss of hydraulics. They spun. 4 figures stepped into the room. They wore black uniforms, devoid of insignia, tactical gear. Their faces were partially obscured. Not masks, but visors, obsidian lenses, expressionless. We don't want trouble. You've already caused it. My son is in here. You took him. I'm taking him back. You shouldn't have come. He pulled a sidearm, but he didn't aim at Sarah. He aimed at the monitors. In a blur, he fired. 3 shots, each striking a different screen. The image of Jake vanished in static. No! Run! They bolted. Richard tackled the nearest soldier, grabbed his taser, and slammed it into his gut. The man convulsed and dropped. Go, I'll hold them. We're not leaving you. We don't have a choice. They sprinted back into the corridor, feet slamming against steel. Alarms howled behind them, sirens like screams. Flashing red lights painted everything in pulses of blood. They're destroying the footage, the evidence. They know we've seen too much. We need a way to signal Celine, or the cops, or someone. The cops? You still think they're not in on this? I don't know what to think anymore. They ducked into a side tunnel, locking a door behind them with a steel bar. Darkness wrapped around them again. No idea where Richard was. No idea if Jake was still alive. Just tunnels, and monsters, and lies. I'm coming, baby, no matter what it takes. Chapter 10. Shrouded Intentions. The door they'd barricaded groaned quietly with pressure on the other side. Whoever had been chasing them didn't try to force it. Not yet. You think they're regrouping? Or watching. They love watching. They were crouched in what looked like a disused ventilation room. The hum of old turbines filtered in through the walls, vibrating everything. It felt like being inside the chest of some massive, dying creature. There's a maintenance hatch here. We can squeeze through. Drops into another section, electrical or something. Let's go before they do. They shimmied through the crawl space, scraping knees and shoulders on rusted bolts and dust-caked grates. Finally, they emerged into a sub-level chamber. Round, concrete, lined with servers and humming consoles. Jesus, this isn't just surveillance. This is processing, data routing. This whole fucking place is networked. There's a mainframe behind this. I don't know what half these prompts mean, but it looks like they're indexing behavior profiles, flagged subjects, trigger thresholds. What does that mean? It means they're building psychological maps of kids, cataloging which ones respond to what stimuli. Fear, trust, belief, especially belief. Like Celine said, Jake believed. That's why he was taken. She leaned forward and tapped one of the open files. It unfolded into rows of names, ages, emotional profiles, code names, subject Delta Echo Gamma. Then she saw it. Subject Polaris, age 15, status active. That's him. Subject exhibits high cognitive plasticity, prone to vivid perceptual anchoring, ideal candidate for Phase 2. What the fuck is Phase 2? It doesn't concern you. A figure stood in the doorway, alone, older, graying hair, pale skin, dressed not like the others, no armor, just a dark blazer and gloves, calm. Move or I shoot. You won't. You need answers more than revenge. You took my son. I did, but not for the reasons you believe. Enlighten me then, before I blow your fucking kneecaps out. We're building resilience, emotional armoring. Children like Jake, the ones who see more, who question everything. They don't just survive the future, they shape it. But raw emotion, untested trauma, that needs to be directed. You're training them? Through fear? Through narrative. You tortured my son for a fucking storyline. We gave him something to survive, and he's thriving. Smarter, sharper, more focused. What do you think the world will need in 10 years? Diplomats or tacticians who've tasted hell and kept walking? The words slithered around the room like smoke. Where is he? You wouldn't like what he's become. She didn't come to like it. She came to take him back. Sarah lunged. She smashed the butt of the pistol across the man's temple. He dropped like a sack of bricks. The consoles flickered. Security protocol activated. We tripped something. We've got 60 seconds. This has access codes. If Jake's still alive, they'll lead us to him. They bolted back through the ventilation hatch as heavy doors began to seal across the corridors. The whole system was shifting, reconfiguring, like it knew they were coming. And Sarah was done playing its game. Chapter 11. The Covert Operation. Sarah and Linda sprinted through the narrowing corridor as reinforced doors slammed shut behind them. Each one fell like a guillotine, thunderclaps of steel and threat. Don't stop! Don't fucking stop! Almost there. They dove through the final open hatch as it sealed behind them with a hiss of pressurized air. Then silence, except for the sound of their hearts pounding and lungs clawing for breath. We need to hide, recalibrate, then go for Jake. Guards will be sweeping this place in minutes. You know that, right? Then let's give them something to find. They found a small janitorial alcove, empty except for a mop, 2 dead cockroaches, and a plastic chair that collapsed when Linda sat on it. It would do. The screen pulsed to life, demanding biometric input. Sarah stared at the man's unconscious face in her memory, then angled the tablet, pressing the lens to her own eye. A miracle. Jesus, that worked? He said Jake was becoming something. That must mean I'm part of whatever psych profile they built into him. Family DNA gets a pass. The map loaded. Complex, multidimensional. A web of hallways, elevators, rotating rooms. They saw Jake's name. Subject Polaris, Sector D, Sublevel 4. Status, quarantined. He's alive. But for how long? Sarah flipped through a file labeled Phase 2, Psychogenic Trials. Footage played. Helmeted children in sealed rooms. Interrogation through sound, lights, deprivation. One of them was Jake. I don't want to do this. Please, just let me go. You're doing very well. Fear sharpens thought. Bastards. Then let's burn their house down. She held up 2 thermal charges, military-grade black market. Where Linda had gotten them, Sarah didn't ask. Okay, Rambo. The plan came together fast. Infiltrate Sublevel 4, extract Jake, upload all research files to a secure drop server, and detonate the power core as distraction and cover. It was insane. It was perfect. Let's go save my son. Scene shift. Sublevel 4 access shaft. They reached the shaft above Sublevel 4 using a broken elevator and the emergency crawl tunnel 20 feet straight down in pitch blackness. You sure this rope will hold? It's either this or knock on the front fucking door. Fine. But if I fall, I'm haunting your ass. They dropped into the corridor. Darker, colder, quieter than the levels above. The walls hummed faintly with power. Somewhere deeper, a faint rhythmic click-click echoed. Movement. He's in room D12, 2 halls left. They moved in silence, each turn revealing more of the horror. Empty rooms filled with restraint chairs, child-sized uniforms folded neatly on cold benches, blood smeared beneath one doorway. They made this place for kids. No, they made it for monsters, the kind that wear badges. The door stood ahead, steel, sealed with an embedded retinal scanner. She triggered the override. Access granted. The door opened. Jake was sitting in the far corner, knees pulled up, face gaunt, eyes too old. A band of electrodes ran from his temple to a socket in the wall. Jake? Mom? Oh my God, Jake. Baby, it's okay. I'm here. I thought I was dreaming again. Not this time. We've got 2 minutes tops before they realize the lock's been tripped. We're getting out, you hear me? I'm not letting them touch you again. They showed me things. They said you left me. They lied. They had him. Now they had to survive long enough to finish what they started. Chapter 12. Unveiling the Truth. They moved fast. Sarah clutched Jake's arm, practically dragging his weakened frame through the dim corridors of Sublevel 4. His skin was cold, his movements slow, disoriented, but he was moving. Left here, power core's down 2 levels, upload stations just past it. Get us the data, I'll get him out. They're going to come. They always come when someone leaves. Let them come. Let the fuckers come. Alarms hadn't tripped yet, but the hum in the walls had changed, now more insistent. The lights stuttered. Air vents roared with unnatural volume. The whole place felt agitated, as if it knew escape was underway. Scene shift. File core room. Plugging into the mainframe. This thing's got military-grade encryption laced with dummy files. It's meant to confuse. Can you get it out? I'm not just a mom, Sarah. I'm a goddamn system analyst. The room filled with green-on-black text. Names scrolled. Thousands. Children, ages, psych profiles, capture dates, transfer orders, destinations, code words, adaptive subjects, prime instigators, non-compliant termination observed, Jesus Christ. Look, it's not just this facility. There are others, 5 more. Arizona, France, Malaysia, Brazil, the UK, all black sites, funded through corporate shell structures. Who's behind it? A face appeared, Officer Reynolds, smiling, wearing a suit, not a uniform, standing with a group of officials, shaking hands in front of an unmarked van. He wasn't just a corrupt cop, he was recruitment, an asset. He told me the house was condemned. He knew I'd drop Jake off there. They baited you. They needed a test subject. Jake was perfect. A warning flashed on screen. Data transfer active, breach detected. Fuck it. We've got 1 shot. Scene shift, escape tunnels. Sirens blared. Red strobes flashed along the walls. Doors began slamming shut in sequence. Boom, boom, boom. Like a heartbeat growing too fast. Keep going. We drop the core. It'll kill their surveillance grid for 1,000 miles. Unauthorized extraction detected. Lethal force authorized. Surrender now or be neutralized. Neutralize this. The light flared. The countdown began. They reached the emergency ladder tunnel. Up, up, up. 30 feet of rebar and rust. Mom, you came. I'll always come, Jake. You hear me? Always. Celine was waiting by the SUV. You found him. We found them too. All of them. And we took every fucking file they had. The facility lit up in the rearview mirror, a geyser of dirt and fire, doors bursting outward, concrete splitting like cracked bone. Jake didn't speak for a long time. He stared out the window, watching trees blur past. Sarah held his hand in silence. She didn't ask what he'd seen. She already knew it was worse than anything she could imagine. You're safe now. For now. Chapter 13, The Operation. Dawn broke with the sound of rotor blades. Sarah stood beside Linda on the shoulder of a dirt access road, wind from the descending police chopper whipping her hair across her face. In the back seat of the SUV, Jake slept with his head against a pillow of blankets. Celine watched over him silently, her hand resting on his shoulder as if to keep the nightmare away by sheer force of will. State police, federal agents, tactical units. They arrived in waves. Black SUVs, armored trucks, even a mobile command van bristling with antennas. Linda handed over the USB drive personally, her fingers still trembling. Everything you need is on there. Names, locations, funding trails. You want your hero moment? Blow the whole thing open. We'll take it from here. No, you'll finish it. You don't get to sweep this under a fucking rug. There's already a joint task force assembling. We're launching a simultaneous breach of the entire facility and surrounding perimeter. You did your part. Now step aside. It was too clean, too efficient. Sarah had been inside that place. She'd seen how deep the rot went. Scene shift. Hours later, they sat in a mobile field office with coffee that tasted like burned plastic and heat that came from rattling vents. Sarah watched footage roll in, SWAT teams breaching empty corridors, empty rooms, empty cages. Whoever was running it cleared out after your extraction. Systems were remotely wiped. There are signs of structural sabotage, like someone wanted to destroy evidence from the inside. No, we saw it. There were people down there. Staff. Guards. Jake was in a cell. And yet all we found was this. The image showed Officer Reynolds, dressed as a janitor, wheeling a cleaning cart toward the tree line. hours before the breach. Son of a bitch, he's disappeared. Tracker's dead. His last login bounced through 12 proxies before vanishing entirely. You're telling us you had all this time and let the bastard walk? I'm telling you this goes deeper than a single facility and higher than my clearance. Then you're not the one who should be holding the evidence. Scene shift. Later that day, Sarah watched Jake sleep in the back seat as they drove toward a safe house provided by someone Celine trusted. Whether that meant a journalist, a hacker, or something stranger, Sarah didn't ask. They'll deny everything. Then we make it undeniable. I've got contacts at a few media outlets. Real ones. Not the networks owned by the same 3 conglomerates. We leak everything. If we disappear, someone else runs it. I'm not hiding anymore. You'll have to be louder than they are. Scene shift. Media leak montage. Encrypted emails. Drop servers. Anonymous tip lines. Hidden interviews in shadowed basements. Redacted files spread like a virus across the internet. The public reaction came in waves. Outrage. Disbelief. Conspiracy. And then silence. The silence that comes when powerful people buy time. Scene shift. Final moment. Sarah tucked Jake into bed. A different bed. A safer one. But not his room. Not their house. That was gone now. Are they gone? For now. They'll come back. Then so will we. Because monsters don't fear the dark. They fear the ones who come back for it. Chapter 14. Approaching the lair. The road ended 3 miles before the compound began. It wasn't marked on any map. No GPS coordinates, no roads, no fences, no signs. Just forest, thick and old, and a worn footpath running like a scar through the undergrowth. This is it. We go in quiet. No phone signals, no drones, no second chances. Jake didn't speak. He hadn't said more than a few words in 2 days. But when he looked up at Sarah, she saw it. He remembered. The man with the glasses. Reynolds. He's there. You sure? I heard him giving orders after they took me away from the others. You ready for this? I've been ready since the day I dropped him off at that house. Scene shift. The forest approach. They moved through the forest like ghosts, dressed in black, boots soft against the pine needles. Birds didn't sing here. Even the wind seemed afraid to breathe. At the top of a ridge, the trees parted, revealing the lair, a squat bunker-style compound, camouflaged into the hillside. Satellite dishes disguised as dead trees, thermal barriers, motion detectors, not a military base, something worse. 1 guard at the southeast vent, 2 more near the back perimeter, and that. She pointed to a concrete dome at the center of the compound. That's our core. That's where he'll be. We're not taking them head-on, not with just the 2 of us. No, but we're not exactly alone either. Encrypted, off-grid, military-grade. She dialed. A tone clicked. Then another. Told you not to call unless it was biblical. It's fucking Revelations. Scene shift. Nightfall. An unmarked helicopter dipped low behind the ridge. 4 black-clad figures dropped down like shadows made flesh. Former special forces. Off the books. No names. Linda greeted them with a nod. Sarah didn't ask questions. They know what they're walking into? They've seen worse, but they've never seen this. 1 team would breach the power node, killing internal comms and security. The second would sweep the dome, find Reynolds, and extract anyone still inside. Sarah and Jake, they were going straight for the control room. I know the path. I remember it. I can get us through. You sure? I walked it in the dark. I can walk it again. Scene shift inside the compound. The breach was surgical, muffled gunshots, screams, then silence. Inside the compound, the halls looked just like the facility from before. Sterile, brutal, gray. But this one was active. Stay close. Don't let go. I won't. They found the control room. Reinforced glass, humming servers, 3 monitors showing live feeds, one of them displaying Sarah and Jake walking down the hallway. You always were predictable, Sarah. He was older, more tired, but no less dangerous. No uniform now. Just a black suit, sleeves rolled, gun already drawn. Game's over, Reynolds. No, it's just evolving. This was never about your son. He's just version 1. I remember your voice. You said I was a mirror. And look what you became. Sharp, emotionally severed, perfect. The shot rang out. Reynolds fell. Control's ours. No casualties. We got him, Sarah. I hope hell has mirrors. Chapter 15, The Meltdown. The fire started in the server core. Whether by sabotage, failsafe, or desperation, no one could say. But when the systems collapsed, when the power grid fried and the cameras shut off, something irreversible ignited. Keep your eyes on me. I can't, it's too loud. It's just noise, baby, just noise. You're safe now. Concrete cracked. Alarms blared. The sound of steel bending screamed through the halls like metal in pain. They made it out seconds before the ceiling collapsed. Linda waved them down from behind the ridge, breathless and wide-eyed. Jesus, I thought you were dead. Not yet. Scene shift 1 week later. Undisclosed location. They watched the news in silence. Footage of the smoldering compound, government spokespeople denying involvement, rogue agency, isolated breach, no official connection. The headlines screamed scandal, but behind them, silence. Will they come for us again? They'd better pray they don't. The encrypted server chirped. Linda tapped it open. A message blinked. File received, story scheduled, international drop, 24 hours. The leak had reached its final destination. Scene shift, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera headlines, Global Child Experimentation Network uncovered. Private intelligence contractors tied to black site facilities. Whistleblower claims U.S. agencies complicit. Public outcry was swift. Lawsuits, hearings, arrests. But convictions, that was another matter. Scene shift. Sarah's monologue later that month. I thought exposing them would fix everything. That once the truth was out, it would mean something, that people would care. They cared for 5 news cycles, but I didn't do it for the headlines. I did it so the next mother wouldn't leave her kid at a doorstep and get a grave in return. Scene shift, nighttime. Jake's bedroom. He still twitched in his sleep, still flinched when the wind howled, still asked, once in a while, if the people on the news were lying too. She never answered that. Some lies were just quieter than others. Are we free now? We're awake. That's enough for now. Scene shift, final scene. Linda's safe house. There's a name we missed. Who? Head of a think tank in D.C. Funded half the shell companies that ran the site. Still walks free. Still testifying to Congress. Then we're not finished. Justice isn't a verdict. It's a pursuit. And Sarah Whitaker was still hunting. Epilogue, 5 years later. The air in Vermont always smelled like pine and fresh stone after rain. Jake Whitaker sat at a worn wooden desk inside a converted barn, tapping at his laptop with calloused fingers. A black hoodie, sleeves rolled up, his face older, sharper, but still marked by the boy who had once walked into a house that did not exist. Behind him, rows of server towers blinked in quiet sync, the hum of encrypted infrastructure, all routed through black market satellite hubs and dead man switches. Jake wasn't hiding anymore. He was watching. You've been at it for 14 hours. Her hair streaked with silver, her eyes softer, but still fire underneath. Got a ping. Offshore shell account just got pulled into a firm that once donated to Renard Global. Guess who's still laundering test site funds under new names? You sure you don't want to take the week off like a normal 19-year-old? I'm not normal. You made sure of that. Sarah smiled, a real one. No, they tried to break you. I just helped rebuild what mattered. Scene shift. Later that evening, quiet fireplace. They sat by the fire, wrapped in the silence of people who had earned their quiet. Do you think it's over? I think evil never ends, but I think we don't either. I used to wonder why they picked me. They picked you because you saw things they couldn't control, and that scared the shit out of them. Do you ever think we'll stop running? No. But we'll always be moving forward. Scene shift. Monitor wall. Final moment. He sat before the monitors. On one screen, an article about a major defense contractor caught misreporting youth resilience trials. On another, a spreadsheet tracing political donations back to the same codename that once labeled him Polaris. Still hunting, just like you taught me. This time, I find them first. The end. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, ring the bell, and tell your friends about my listening library.